had just merged onto Interstate 10 when Rosa called me, her voice breaking so badly I could barely understand her. "Ma'am, please don't go home yet. Pull over and check the cameras." My grip tightened on the wheel. "What's wrong, Rosa?" "Just look, please." Some part of me understood danger before my mind caught up. I took the next exit and stopped in the empty lot of a shuttered diner, parking beneath a rusted sign that still advertised $2 pie. My in-laws had walked through El Paso International Airport barely 25 minutes earlier, standing proudly beside their matching burgundy suitcases, supposedly bound for a cruise out of San Diego. My mother-in-law, Diane, had hugged me a little too long at the gate. "Take care of yourself, Elena," she'd whispered, and I'd mistaken it for warmth. I was 41, a major in the United States Army, stationed at Fort Bliss. 20 years in uniform had taught me how to stay level when everything around me fell apart. Deployments gone sideways, soldiers with bad news from home, equipment that never showed up on time. But sitting in that parking lot with my phone shaking in my hand, I forgot how to breathe. I opened the security app. Front porch, empty. Kitchen, empty. Then the living room feed loaded, and I saw my husband, Marcus, standing at the couch with his arms wrapped around a woman who wasn't me. He kissed her the way you kiss someone you've kissed 100 times before. She was wearing my gray cardigan, the one I kept by the back door because the house always ran cold. An open bottle of wine sat on the table, the good Malbec my commander had given me after our last readiness review. I watched, frozen, as the woman laughed and touched his jaw, and Marcus smiled at her in a way he hadn't smiled at me in years. I called Rosa back immediately. "Where are you right now?" "In the laundry room. I came back for my blood pressure medicine and heard voices. I thought you'd come home early." "Can they see you?" "No." "Leave through the garage. Take only your purse." Her voice cracked. "Mrs. Whitfield, I'm so sorry." "This isn't your fault, Rosa." I saved the footage to my phone and emailed myself a copy, training taking over where panic wanted to. Then just as I reached for the ignition, a burgundy suitcase rolled into frame, the same one I'd watched Diane wheel through security less than half an hour before. Diane herself stepped into my living room, laughing, setting the suitcase down beside the couch while Marcus draped an arm around her shoulder. I checked the timestamp, live. "I honestly thought she'd insist on walking you to the gate," the other woman said. Marcus shrugged. "She never questions family." My stomach turned. Not from the affair anymore, but because all three of them were laughing together. Easy, familiar, rehearsed. This wasn't a secret. His parents knew. Maybe they'd always known. Diane glanced toward the hallway. "Did Rosa leave?" "I think so. She cleaned this morning." The woman, I'd later learn her name was Natalie, frowned. "You're sure she didn't see me?" Marcus waved a hand. "She's 60. She barely notices anything." I almost laughed because Rosa had noticed more about my marriage than I ever had. I called her again. "How many times have you seen her here?" I asked quietly. A long pause. "Maybe 7. 7. Not one mistake. A pattern. Why didn't you tell me?" Mr. Whitfield always said she was a client, and today there wasn't any introduction between her and Diane. They already knew each other. That detail hurt more than the kiss had. I rewound the footage and studied the room instead of the people. 3 coffee cups, a bakery box, someone had planned this morning carefully. Then the driveway camera showed a black SUV pulling in at 11:39. My father-in-law, Walter, stepping out with only 2 small carry-ons. No luggage for a 2-week cruise. The big suitcase had been a prop. A memory surfaced. Months earlier, Diane had canceled a family dinner, claiming a weekend trip. The same weekend, Marcus had skipped church for a client meeting. My phone buzzed. "Marcus, hope the drive's smooth. Love you." I typed back that I'd just left El Paso. He replied instantly, easy, untroubled. On the feed, Diane crossed the room carrying a thick envelope marked, in black marker, attorney. I sat in that lot for 10 more minutes before I could make myself drive. I called my executive officer, told him I had a family emergency, and he told me to take whatever time I needed. Then I called Denise Coleman, a divorce attorney another officer had once recommended, and got an appointment for 2 o'clock that same afternoon. Denise watched the footage without a flicker of surprise until the envelope appeared. "Pause it. Zoom in." I did. "Attorney," she read aloud, then looked at me. "They're organized. Not about the affair, about whatever comes next." She handed me a legal pad and told me to think like an investigator, not a wife. We built a timeline. when Marcus insisted on switching every account to paperless statements, when Diane had offered to keep copies of our house documents in her fireproof safe, just in case. Thoughtful, I'd believed at the time. Calculated, I understood now. That night, alone at my kitchen table while Marcus showered upstairs humming to himself, I logged into our joint investment account for the first time in months and found $174,000 missing. Not withdrawn all at once, but bled out over 8 months in small labeled transfers, portfolio adjustment, asset reallocation. I screenshotted everything. Over the following days, Denise and I traced it further. Property records showed Marcus had transferred a lake house outside Kerrville to Diane for $1. 6 weeks earlier, after using more than $100,000 of our money to renovate it first. I met Rosa at a small cafe and thanked her for telling me the truth the moment she knew it. And for the first time in days, I felt something besides anger. Gratitude. Denise later called with worse news. Marcus wasn't planning to serve me with papers yet. He was waiting until after my 6-week training rotation at the National Training Center, when I'd be too far away to fight back. He doesn't realize you've already changed the game, she said. For 2 weeks, I lived 2 lives. Smiling over dinner, folding his laundry, letting him hold my hand while I quietly built a case with Denise from every receipt, every transfer, every lie. We found a sworn statement Marcus had filed for a business loan, claiming I had effectively abandoned the marital relationship due to military service. I'd deployed once in 11 years. We found the woman, Natalie, and when I finally called her, she didn't hang up. She said Marcus had told her our divorce was already final, that I'd moved on to base permanently, that we hadn't shared a room in years. She'd met Diane and Walter. She'd spent Thanksgiving with them. The same Thanksgiving I'd spent coordinating relief efforts after flooding near Fort Bliss, while Marcus told me his parents wanted a quiet holiday. And then Natalie told me the real reason she'd agreed to testify. She'd just learned Marcus had proposed to another woman entirely, someone named Priya, in Dallas. None of us had been the only one. At the deposition, Denise laid out photographs, recordings, and financial records until Marcus's easy confidence finally cracked. And when Natalie walked in unannounced and asked him, in front of everyone, which of them he'd actually planned to marry, he had nothing left to say. The hearing took place on a Wednesday morning at the county courthouse. I wore my dress uniform, every ribbon in place not to impress anyone but because it represented the integrity Marcus had spent months trying to unravel. Rosa testified first, calm and certain. Natalie testified next, admitting her own mistakes without excusing his. Then came the security footage. The kiss, Diane's suitcase, the envelope, months of documents fitting together like pages of one long story none of us had been allowed to read in full. The judge found that Marcus had concealed assets, misrepresented finances, and fraudulently transferred marital property. She ordered the lake house returned to the estate, the missing funds repaid, and awarded me our home, along with a settlement that covered most of my legal costs given his conduct during discovery. Outside the courthouse, Walter approached me alone. "I should have stopped this," he said. "It became my business the day I stayed quiet." I told him I hoped he found peace. Then I found Denise and told her there was one more thing I wanted to do: pay off Rosa's mortgage. 10 years of loyalty deserved more than gratitude. It deserved something lasting. 6 months later, I drove back to that same airport to pick up my sister for the holidays, and for the first time, my hands didn't shake on that stretch of highway. I still serve at Fort Bliss. Rosa still works with me, though by now we both call it something closer to family. I stopped checking on Marcus's life somewhere along the way, not because I'd forgiven him, but because I no longer needed to know. These days, I volunteer once a month with a support group for military spouses navigating divorce. And when someone recently asked me how I let go of wanting revenge, I told her the truth. I never wanted revenge at all. I wanted the truth. And once the truth had a chance to speak for itself, I didn't have to carry the anger anymore. If you've ever had a moment when the truth changed the direction of your life, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until next time, take care of yourself and never underestimate the quiet strength it takes to choose honesty over anger.